Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Brave Enough Show. It's your host, Dr. Sasha Shillcutt. And today we are kicking off a new season of the Brave Enough Show. I'm really excited to be recording this for you all. As I record this, it is the beginning of March. And that's exciting to me because I'm hoping in a couple months we're going to be back in our house. For those of you that have listened to the podcast, you know that we lost our home last spring in a tornado, and we hope to be moving in the next couple months. And so I'm just excited that we made it to March. I have a feeling of hopefulness that I haven't had in quite some time because I've been waiting almost a year to have our space back. So I'm super excited. And I'm also excited because I've decided to do the next 10 episodes on understanding yourself and talking about your personality and your core values and what makes you you. And the reason is because so much of my coaching in the last several years has revealed that at the foundation of self-care and mental health is really understanding yourself. And a lot of people, including myself, may go years and years and not really understand who you are or what motivates you. And once you know that about yourself, everything becomes so clear. The boundaries you need to set, who you need to spend time with, why certain people may trigger you, why certain things may really hurt you, and then your friend sitting next to you is unaffected by it. Those are the types of things that only really come when we understand who we are. And if you want to take care of yourself, if you want to protect yourself and protect your energy, you have to know who you are. So we are going to do an entire 10 episode season just on understanding yourself. So the next 10 episodes are about you, and I can't wait to go on this ride. Now listen, we're in March, and that means that April 1st, the early bird ticket price for the Brave Enough 2025 conference goes up. It goes away. Early bird goes away April 1. So you have a couple weeks left. You want to go to braveenoughconference.com right now and buy your ticket so you get the best price of the year. And I'm telling you, this year is going to be awesome. I've just finished the slate of speakers. They're amazing. They're diverse. They're people coming from different walks of life to teach us everything from leadership development to our own well-being, to how to have difficult conversations, to how to make daily time for yourself, to how to stop having mom guilt. All those things we're going to talk about. And you want to be there because this is a high-touch, amazing event. And it's going to be held at the Omni in Montelucia in Scottsdale, which is a beautiful resort, best spa. You want to be there. Go to Brave Enough Conference and sign up. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about understanding what makes your personality. And what makes you you is really a set of core values. And those core values are thought to be determined around age 8 to 12. They're very formative years. And this is why, if you've had some trauma in your life between those ages, it's going to greatly influence how you see the world and the lenses that you view the world through. It's going to affect things like your core fear, what you're afraid of. It's going to affect and change what motivates you, what your core desire is, what you long to hear. All of those things that make up your personality and make you you are formed between those ages. Now, it doesn't mean that something that happens to you when you're 16 or 26 or 36 or 46 doesn't matter and doesn't change who you are. It certainly does, but you're really set with your personality and how you see the world by age 8 to 12. So I think this is so important, and I think this is so interesting. If you think back to your own family of origin, or if you have kids, if you think about your own kids, chances are that you and your spouse or your partner, or you yourself, if you're a single parent, you probably has had moments where you've looked at your kids and gone, wait a minute, how is this child so different than this child when they have the same parents? They live in the same home. We control for all these similar factors. Maybe they went to the same school. They have the same grandparents. They run in the same social circles. Maybe they go to the same church. And how are they so different? And yet I would argue that's what makes life so cool and unique is we have such different personalities. And so I want you to think about yourself. Okay. So these next 10 episodes are not about someone else or learning from someone else. It's just me teaching you or encouraging you to get curious about your own personality. And we're going to talk about assessments and the Enneagram and all sorts of stuff. By the way, I did a whole season on the Enneagram. I think it's season 13. And that was the highest viewed, downloaded of all my seasons of my podcast. So people really loved learning about it. And if you don't know about the Enneagram, don't worry, you're going to learn as we go through this. I'm going to teach you. Okay, so your personality, like I said, is formed in our childhood. It's formed by a lot of different things. Some of it's nature, some of it's nurture. If you really think about what makes you you, there are some core things that how you see the world. And what I love about my favorite personality assessment, which is called the Enneagram, is that the Enneagram measures and looks at four core things for every human being. Not what you do or how you act, but why you act that way. Because the truth is that, like, if we were standing around in a circle and we gathered 10 strangers, right? And someone collapsed in the middle of a crowd, those 10 strangers are all different personalities. They're raised by different people. Let's say we pick them from 10 different countries. Probably 2 or 3 of them are going to take the same action. And then maybe 2 or 3 more are going to take a different action. Maybe 2 or 3 are going to run for help. Maybe 2 or 3 are going to freeze. Maybe 2 or 3 are going to get down on the ground and start CPR. Everybody's going to do something different. And yet some people are going to take the same actions. So it's not a personality test that says, oh, you are who you are because you do these actions. It's no, why you do those actions. And so it really gets down to the core understanding of who you are. And it's really an amazing thing once you understand who you are and once you understand yourself, because when you understand yourself, you stop wasting time trying to be something you're not. You give yourself grace for the weaknesses you have. You give other people grace because that you realize not everyone has the same strengths that you do. You start understanding people at a different level. You start communicating better. You start protecting your energy better because you know yourself and you know, like, okay, I am going to fizzle out after doing this, or I'm not going to do a great job at this task or volunteering for this thing because I'm not motivated by that. You're going to understand other people at a deeper level, but mostly you're going to understand yourself and you're going to take better care of yourself. Think about it's like being a physician or being a healthcare provider for you. The best ways that we can take care of patients when we are in the healthcare space is to understand our patients, like to know your patient, to know everything about your patient. And a lot of times I will be in the operating room and man, this patient is hypotensive, meaning their blood pressure is getting lower and lower and lower. And there's something I'm missing. And the first thing I do is, first I look and see what's going on in the middle of surgery. Is it something the surgeon's doing? Is it something I'm missing with the blood, or are we losing blood, or have I administered something that the patient's perhaps allergic to, but I don't know that. And I can't tell by normal parameters because the patient can't talk to me. What's going on? Is there an infection I don't know about? The first thing I do is I go back to the patient's chart and I start digging through the patient's chart in a rapid manner, trying to figure out more about them because the answer for what's going on lies there. And this is the same way I want you to think. When you understand yourself, it's like being a doctor for you. And you can take better care of you when you understand who you are. So I want to talk a little bit about what core things we understand when we understand ourselves. Okay. First of all, there are 4 core motivations. Every single one of us has a core fear, a core desire, a core weakness, and a core longing. All of us go through different times of our life where we have different levels of alignment. And this is very clear to all of us as we go through. Like, if you look back and you're like, man, that year in college, I was struggling. I was not aligned. Maybe I was with people that I didn't feel a sense of belonging. Maybe I was isolated. Maybe I was overstretched and taking courses or classes that I wasn't prepared to take. Maybe I was unsure of something, so I wasn't aligned. And then it's like how you respond and process information. Okay, so how not only what you put out into the world, but part of your personality is also how you respond to the world, okay, and how you process that information. And then it's also part of your personality is how you handle stress. This is huge. So we've all seen this, especially those of us who work in healthcare. We've been in a situation in a crisis, but even if you don't have to work in healthcare to have been in a stressful situation, people undergo four paths, right? They either freeze, they fawn, they fight, or they flight, right? Those are the four paths of stress, and everybody picks a different one. And I would say that's formulated based on your personality, okay? So what you do and how you understand your personality type is so important because number one, you use your personality type to protect yourself from your core fear and your core weakness. You may not know what those are, but hopefully I'm going to teach you that as we go through these 10 episodes. And then you also use your personality to achieve your core longing or your core desire. So if you're working in an institution or you're working for a boss or you're working for some place that has a specific mission and you're not aligned with that mission, of course you're not going to feel like you're achieving much. Of course you're going to feel like you don't fit there. Of course you're going to be chronically frustrated with your job. Or on the same token, if you are working in an environment or you're in a relationship with someone who triggers your core fear or your core weakness, of course you're not going to feel like you can trust this human being, whether it's a friend or a coworker, right? So once you know this about yourself, it makes life so much easier because you're like, oh, no wonder I act this way. And yet my friend over here is like, oh, that person doesn't bother me at all. Or that person, I'm not upset, or I feel great in this job. So again, once you understand yourself, life becomes so much easier. All right. So I want to make sure that we all understand that when we understand ourselves, we are also doing something called increasing our emotional intelligence. And you might have heard people talk about EQ. EQ, or emotional intelligence, is really your ability to be successful in life and to get along, not just get along with others, but lead others, convince others of, to be followers, to whether it's getting on board with a community organization or working in your kid's school, or whether it's helping your family, your family of origin or the kids that you're raising move forward. It doesn't mean that you have to be a leader of a corporation or an institution. You want to have high EQ because you also want to have peace in your life. And you want to have good relationships with others. And emotionally intelligent people tend to be successful. They tend to be successful in relationships. They tend to be successful in their job, and they tend to just be successful in life in general. So this is not just something for you to get ahead at work. This is something that if you have high emotional intelligence, you're going to be successful in most areas of your life. And there are 5 core components to emotional intelligence, okay? One is social skills. One is self-management. I mean, how can you manage yourself if you don't know yourself, right? The next one is motivation. This is huge. So if you don't know what motivates you, if you don't know what your core motivations are, and you're going to learn that, if you don't know what those are, how can you align yourself to motivate yourself? Empathy. Again, I've talked about how when I finally understood myself through the Enneagram, which is a personality assessment, I really started being more empathetic to others. I had massive growth in my empathy, which every other personality assessment I ever took said you have low empathy. You don't have low empathy, but empathy is not one of your top, strengths. It's probably in the mid. And I would always feel bad and be like, oh gosh, I want to be an empathetic person. And then I would think, well, how can I not be empathetic? Because sometimes I find myself weeping about another person's situation, right? And then I realized, oh no, I do have high empathy once I understood myself. Because once I understood who I was and I understood that not everyone is like me, I had massive more empathy and I had a lot more interpersonal success. And the next thing is self-awareness. Self-awareness is the number one predictor of being emotionally intelligent. And here's the thing. We have, standard mental intelligence, and then we have emotional intelligence. You would rather have mid intelligence and high emotional intelligence as a combination than high intelligence and low emotional intelligence. You are more likely to be successful in all areas of your life, relationship, financial, business, career, all of those things if you have high emotional intelligence or high emotional intelligence. Okay. So when you understand yourself and having self-awareness, you also will understand others. It's like a trickle-down effect, because when you really get who you are, you go, huh, well, I guess that's just the way I look at the world, but it's not the way that my best friend looks at the world, or my spouse looks at the world, or my kids look at the world. And therefore, I need to be aware of that. And I need to be more sensitive and empathetic to how I communicate. The second thing that you learn is you become more authentic when you know yourself, because you don't waste time trying to align yourself with mission, with tasks, with work, with people who do not speak to your core motivation. You know, there for years, I led a very large group online, and it was a super diverse group. And people would send me things almost every day to post in this group. Like, can you post about this? Can you post about that? Can you post about this? And people were so passionate about what they wanted me to post on. And this was probably one of the biggest struggles I had because I found it really hard to select what I determined was of value to post. And at the beginning, I posted everything. But then I realized I couldn't do that. Like, there was no feasible way for me to accept everybody's posts and post them. So someone would say, for example, oh my, there's a child that is suffering from cancer at my kid's school. They're doing a fundraiser. Will you post? And then another person would be like, hey, there is my local dog shelter, had a flooded, and we're raising funds for our local pet shelter. And then someone else would say, look, I have a friend who's going through domestic violence, and we're trying to raise funds for this. I mean, there were so many things, or sometimes it was just a social issue that people were really passionate about. And I would read their requests to me, and I would feel their passion for this. I could read it and I could see it. At the same time, some of these things I was like, well, how do I judge? Like, where's the moral line here? And if I post this, then how can I say no to this? Like, that's not fair. Do I post anything or do I post nothing? And what I realized was I have to just be authentic to myself. And I cannot post something that, I may think, oh, wow, this is the most important thing. But other people may be thinking, well, why is she posting this? So I had to do a lot of emotional reasoning, and I had to just set up boundaries and be like, not every single thing. I cannot take on the passion and mission and motivation of every person, because I am one person. Doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me an immoral person. It doesn't make me an unethical person. It just makes me the community organizer of this group. And I am going to set some boundaries, and I can't take on everything, and it's too stressful for me. So it was such a good moment of having authenticity, and also limiting my emotional tax that I was putting out there. I would not have understood that about myself if I would not have gone through the Enneagram. Okay. The other thing that understanding yourself and really getting who you are comes to is it allows you to manage yourself. It allows you to become resilient and not temperamental. You don't stay in a temperamental state when you get who you are, because you actually know, like, I am not going to be for all the people. I am not going to engage with this group of people because I don't speak the same language that they do. Like, they're into whatever, and I'm not into that. Okay. They don't motivate. We don't share the same motivation. So I'm not going to join this group. You also manage yourself in that your limits. For example, there were things that I felt bad early in my career that I did not do well, that I thought I need to be able to do everything well. And then I realized, like, no, these are the things that are your strengths in your career. And you need to let go of half of these things you're doing and focus on the things that you want to do and that you're good at, because you're trying to be good at everything. And in trying to be good at everything, you're being good at nothing, Sasha. And that also came with self-awareness and learning about my personality. I cannot tell you how many things I've said no to now without guilt because I understand my personality and I know that that is not something that brings me joy. And actually, you don't want me to be a part of that because I'm not good at it. Okay? Like, this is not something you want me to do because I do not do that well. You want someone else to do that because they do it really, really well. And if you ask Sasha to do it, you're going to be frustrated with Sasha because she's going to get impatient at herself and frustrated at herself, and you're going to get frustrated with her. But see, I didn't know that about myself for years and years. I thought, oh, I'm not good at that. I need to work on that. Now I just go, I am not good at that. I'm never going to be good at that. Why would I put energy in it? Right? So you really allow yourself to focus on the things that you are good at and get better at those things. It's not like you just go, oh, I'm good. That's not my personality. I'm never going to work on myself. That's not at all what I'm saying. Self-awareness makes you actually want to work harder on yourself. When you understand yourself, you are motivated to work harder on yourself. But you are also motivated to let go of things that you know is not in your wheelhouse. Okay? You're just going to move past that and get into a higher level for you. And you're going to manage your energy better. So again, understanding yourself is at the basic competency of emotional intelligence. You want to be emotionally intelligent. You want to grow. People that are emotionally intelligent are people that are self-aware. People that are self-aware understand their personalities and are grounded in their core motivations, and they know their core fears and they know their core weakness. So it's like a GPS. It's like when you're going through your day and something stressful triggers you, you're going to hear that core weakness. You're going to hear that core fear start to bubble up. And it's like a red flag going, whoa, 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 slow down. You're starting to get anxious. You're starting to get grumpy. You're starting to become self-centered. You're starting to worry. You're starting to overthink. You're starting to rush. You're starting to overperform. You're starting to lack empathy. And people that have EQ, they pause. They control their thoughts. They benefit from criticism because they know, like, okay, yeah, that's in alignment with who I know I am and what I need to work on. Thank you for telling me that. They give helpful feedback. They're more likely to apologize. Emotionally intelligent people are much more likely to say, I'm sorry. They're also more likely to forgive and forget. They're more likely to show up and keep their commitment and help others. So understanding yourself is key to being productive. It may seem counterintuitive, but I promise you, as we go along these next 10 episodes, you're going to dive into yourself. And my hope for you is that you're going to learn about yourself at a level you have not learned about yourself before. And so stick with me. I know this was a lot of information in this first episode, but we're going to get down into the nitty gritty. Next time, we're going to be talking about different personality assessments, how you can learn about yourself, and you don't want to miss next week. It's going to be really, really good. You don't want to miss any of these episodes. So share this episode with a friend, share it with a work colleague, share it with a trainee, share it with your spouse. Anybody can listen to this series because it's really going to be about understanding self at a deeper level. If you like this podcast, make sure to give me a review. Make sure that you give me a little comment. Go to iTunes. It really helps me do that. And just give me a little shout out on there or share it on social media and give me some feedback. I love hearing your stories. Also, I wanted to make sure that all of you know that I do a lot of speaking. I'm pretty selective in where I speak and what I speak on, but sometimes I speak to people in groups of 50 and other times I speak to people in groups of a few thousand. It just really depends on what you want and what is available with my schedule. But I love public speaking. It's one of my favorite things I get to do. Just this week, I got to do it. And it was such a blessing to me and so invigorating to me to make sure that whoever hires me, I make them really happy and I deliver for them. I love getting to know different audiences and understanding like what you want from me as a speaker and making sure that I deliver a high impact talk that's going to encourage and inspire those in the audience. So if that's at all interesting to you, or you have an event coming up, or you know of someone that's planning an event and they're looking for a keynote speaker, reach out to me. Just email info@becomebraveenough.com and tell me a little bit about your event. I would love to hear more. As always, live brave.